How can I tell the difference between normal stress and actual burnout? And what can I do about it early?
Yeah. That chestnut. So I think probably the first thing is figuring out what the difference is between stress and what the difference is between burnout. So stress is a normal response we have. So we all experience stress. So our stress hormone, cortisol, is at its highest in the morning. So it wakes us up, gets us up, dressed, online, on time. There's a sense of urgency, but we can cope. And then it decreases. So it's supposed to be at its lowest before we go to sleep, which helps us go to sleep. And then that's the sort of cycle of cortisol and stress. So we will go along, there will be a sense of urgency, we will respond, and then we'll recover, and then we'll go again. So if you think about when you're driving a car, a red light, you stop, you wait, and then you go again. So having stress or having cortisol is physiologically, we all have it. Monks have it, psychologists and therapists have it, the most Zen person experiences it. Burnout is when we have continuous exposure to a particular stressor or stresses. So if we think about what's on the news at the moment, there might be things there that are stressing you out and that you're getting over. Or if you think about COVID, where we might have had, COVID burnout through that continuing conversation of that stressor of whatever it is out there and the what ifs, like Simon was describing, that larger picture. It could also be a stressor at work or life or family commitments. So there are lots of stresses that can affect us, but it's that continuous exposure without rest and recovery that then I guess leads into burnout. Burnout can look different for everyone, and there is absolutely a spectrum of it. So my big thing is to know that you can't outrun or outwork burnout. And I'd love for you to take that holiday. That's great. But if you return back to work and life exactly the same way, it's going to happen again. So it's about mitigating, changing. Doesn't have to be dramatic. Allowing ourselves that time to rest. So, there's a term homeostasis. So that's when we're back there. So it's when those levels of cortisol sit higher as a base level. That's when we start to experience burnout and illness and things like that. So how do we get it early? If you're thinking to yourself, I need a break, I need a holiday, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, that's probably a good sign that you might need to rest and recover. So I'm not saying take a holiday. I'm saying think about what it is that you're missing right now. What is it that you're doing a lot of, or what is that stressor that might be stressing you out? So if it's a project and that project has an end date, what is it that you can implement between that and that end date that is realistic, that can help you with that? Or how are you going to recover after that project? Or are you expecting yourself to go out and put out the same output again straight into the next one? So thinking about that work cycle, life cycle. Sometimes we don't know we're burnt out as well. Like, I'll be very honest, I was burnt out about this time last year. So, the girl who's talking about burnout was burnt out. I know the irony with that. But for me, it was actually something that was quite interesting, like the point of that I realized that I was burnt out. So we have things that we do day to day that we love. There are those things that we get excited about. So burnout is a depletion of physically, emotionally, spiritually. We're numb. That sense of joy can be void. So we can have like creative burnout as well. But when those things that usually bring you joy don't, that's a really clear sign that something might be up. So for me, I have a 93-year-old granny and I absolutely love her. She's the light of my life and I usually see her quite regularly. But last year I realized that I hadn't seen her for about 6 weeks. And I actually found the pattern that I fell into that made me not go see her. So, and she wouldn't call me to be like, where are you? Because she's so sweet. And it was that I'd go see her on a Wednesday, and one Wednesday I had a work commitment, so I didn't go see her. And then the next Wednesday I was like, actually, I'm just going to go do this. And so I did more work. And then that sort of got into the cycle where I wasn't allowing myself time to rest. You know, it's not a huge request. It's like an hour for a cup of tea in the afternoon on a Wednesday. But that was enough to sort of get me a little bit off kilter. So, and the reason I found out that I was burnt out was actually through conversations with friends and family, sort of checking in on me, or, you know, you seem like a little bit tired, a little bit exhausted. So I would say looking at what your toolkit is and what are the things that you do to bring you joy in that rest and recovery, and sort of make sure we're sort of setting either a routine or things that we can do to hopefully avoid burnout, or sort of, you know, manage when we're in those sort of dips. But also, what are your temperature gauges? You know, is it that you do a journal and you reflect on yourself daily? Is it that you do a debrief with a mentor, a manager, a friend, a family member? How do you gauge yourself? Because sometimes, like, I like to think that I'm quite self-aware, when I realized I had no self-awareness with that at all. So sometimes that sort of connection can be really helpful as well. I'd also recommend even having a look at like the mental health continuum, because that will sort of give you a temperature gauge of where you're sitting on a sort of daily basis. And so if you see that you're sort of sitting on the lower end of the mental health continuum for some consecutive days, it might mean that we might need to do some stuff to fill our cup up, or work through.
Excellent. How about on the other side of this, Simon? Like, I think one of the best things that you said there, Aimee, was like how you do need that network around you, because sometimes it's other people spotting it for you. And I know, like at home, I have that. But Simon, I remember in the past you've talked about, like, you're going to ask a lot from people, but it's an exchange, right? So when you're asking a lot, you're actually going to make sure that you give back as well. Like, how wary are you of what people might be going through in the team based on, you know, workload and, you know, challenges and pressure?
Super aware in the sense that, and I think when I've talked about this before, I've also talked about the joy and the excitement of when there is a lot of work required, a big pitch or a project that you know is going to be a potential sort of really famous piece of work. And so it's important for me in terms of creating great work environments that everyone is able to give their all and enjoy that time of really throwing ourselves into that big project. But then I'm very conscious to ensure that once that project is delivered, that we have the downtime. And so it's great creative workplaces are very much give and take environments, and where there is that balance, because so you get to enjoy the excitement of that throwing everything in, because that's what it's all about. But then there's the downtime afterwards. Super important. I just wanted to call out one thing. I loved Aimee with your statement of monks have cortisol too, and I think that Never Not Creative should actually have a limited edition T-shirt with that as a slogan on it. And monks have cortisol too. I'd be proudly wearing one of those T-shirts.
All right.
Amazing.
It can happen.